I'm Sophia, 28 years old, and on Mother's Day, my own mother sent me an invoice for my existence totaling $347,000. But before I tell you how that single piece of paper destroyed my family and ended 2 marriages in one afternoon, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. I always love seeing how far these stories travel. It started on a Tuesday, 3 days before the family reunion. I was sitting in my cubicle in downtown Boston. I work as a risk analyst for a major bank. It sounds fancy, but really, I spend my days staring at spreadsheets, hunting for discrepancies, looking for the penny that doesn't belong. It's a job that requires obsessive attention to detail. You have to love the truth more than you love politeness. I didn't know it then, but that job was the only training I would need for what was about to happen. My phone buzzed against the desk. It was an Instagram notification. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. It was my sister, Isabella. There she was, posed on a balcony overlooking the Amalfi Coast in Italy, holding a glass of Aperol Spritz. The caption read, "Finally some me time. Treating myself after a grueling quarter. #bossbabe #self-made." I stared at the picture. A grueling quarter. Isabella hadn't held a steady job in 6 months. She called herself an interior design consultant, which mostly meant she bought throw pillows for our mother's friends and charged them double. I looked down at my own lunch, a turkey sandwich I'd made at home to save money because my student loan payment was due. The contrast made my stomach turn. I wasn't jealous of her vacation, I was confused. How was she funding 5-star resorts when I knew for a fact she had asked Dad for gas money 2 weeks ago? That's when the email came through. The notification popped up on my work monitor. Sender, Evelyn Hart. Subject, the cost of raising a disappointment. My heart hammered against my ribs. My mother, Evelyn, had a flair for the dramatic, but this felt different. It felt cold. I clicked it open. There was no greeting. No "Hi Sophia," no "Hope you're well." Just a single line of text. "Since you have decided to be a burden rather than a blessing, I expect reimbursement. See attached." Attached was an Excel spreadsheet. I opened it and I swear the air left the room. It was a line-by-line itemization of my life. Row 4, Orthodontics, 2010. $6,500. Note, teeth still crooked. Waste of money. Row 12, Summer Camp, 2012. $2,000. Note, sent her away to get peace and quiet. Row 25, Parking Tickets, 2016. $450. Row 89, Food and Lodging, birth to age 18. Calculated at $500 per month. It went on and on. She had monetized my childhood. She had put a price tag on every meal, every doctor's visit, every moment of care. The total at the bottom was bolded in red, $347,112.50. I sat there frozen. The hum of the office faded away. I felt a wave of nausea, followed by a hot, prickly shame. Was this how she saw me? As a bad investment? As a debt to be collected? Then I saw the note at the very bottom. Look at your sister. Isabella is self-sufficient. She is a success. She brings honor to this family. You bring bills. I expect a payment plan to be presented at the reunion this Sunday. Something inside me snapped. It wasn't a loud snap. It wasn't a scream. It was the quiet click of a lock turning. I didn't cry. I didn't call my fiancé, Liam, to sob about how mean Mommy was. I did what I do for a living. I analyzed the data. My eyes drifted back to the spreadsheet. I started looking at the dates. My mother was meticulous, I'll give her that, but she was arrogant. And arrogance makes you sloppy. I noticed a section labeled Extraordinary Expenses 2019 to 2022. These were vague. Legal fees, emergency loans, lifestyle support. The dates seemed familiar. May 12, 2021. A loan for $6,500. June 20, 2021. Support for $4,200. I pulled up Isabella's Instagram again. I scrolled back. May 12, 2021, Isabella posted a photo of a new Chanel bag. Caption, Retail Therapy. June 20, 2021, Isabella posted from a spa resort in Vermont. My mother was charging me for money she had given to Isabella. But that wasn't the smoking gun. That was just the insult. The injury was yet to be found. I picked up the phone and called a contact I had in the credit bureau. In my line of work, you make friends who can see things others can't. I needed to check my own file. I had a feeling. A sick, sinking feeling in my gut. Hey, it's Sophia, I said, keeping my voice steady. I need to run a full audit on my personal credit history. Hard pull. Everything. I think there might be some activity I didn't authorize. While I waited on hold, I looked at the family photo on my desk. Me, Mom, Dad, and Isabella. Dad looked tired. I looked eager to please. Mom and Isabella looked like they were sharing a private joke. Sophia. My contact came back on the line. His voice was different. Serious. You're sitting down, right? Tell me, I said. You have 3 active credit cards with American Express and Chase. Platinum level. The total outstanding balance is just under $47,000. They're maxed out, Sophia. And the minimum payments are being made from an account. Wait, the account name is Heart Interiors. Isabella's fake company. Send me the statements, I said. Send me everything. Every transaction, every signature, every billing address. Sophia, this is identity theft. This is a federal crime. Do you want me to flag it? No, I said. Not yet. I need the paper trail first. I hung up. I looked at the invoice my mother had sent me. $347,000 for raising a failure. I looked at the credit report downloading on my screen. $47,000 of debt in my name, funding my sister's success. And then I remembered the trust fund. The college fund my grandfather had set up. Mom told me it had evaporated due to bad market investments in 2016, right before I started school. That was why I had student loans. That was why I ate turkey sandwiches while Isabella ate lobster. I logged into the old custodial account portal. It took me 3 tries to guess the password, my mother's birthday, of course. I navigated to the transaction history from 2016. The money hadn't evaporated. The market hadn't crashed. On August 15, 2016, there was a single withdrawal. $89,000. Transferred to Evelyn Hart. I opened a new folder on my desktop. I named it Insurance. I dragged the credit card statements into it. I dragged the trust fund transfer receipt into it. I dragged the invoice she sent me into it. Then I stood up and walked to the window. I looked out at the Boston skyline. I felt a cold, hard clarity settle over me. They wanted a payment plan. They wanted to talk about who cost who money. Okay, Mom, I whispered to the glass. You want to play accountant? Let's balance the books. I went home that night and told Liam everything. He's a calm man, a teacher. He usually looks for the good in people. But when he saw the credit card statements with my forged signature, a signature that was curlicued and looped, just like Isabella's, he went silent. What are you going to do? He asked. I'm going to the reunion, I said. And I'm bringing a projector. Sophia, they will destroy you. You know how they are. Your mom, the relatives, it's a pack of wolves. I know, I said. But wolves are afraid of fire. And I'm bringing a flamethrower. We packed the car on Sunday morning. I didn't pack nice clothes. I packed my laptop, a portable projector, and a thick binder of printed documents. I wanted physical copies. I wanted them to feel the weight of the truth. As we drove down to Connecticut, my stomach was in knots, but my hands were steady on the wheel. We pulled off the highway and onto the long, winding road that led to Grandma Rose's estate. It was a beautiful place, acres of green lawn, a massive colonial house that screamed old money. And there, parked right in the front of the driveway, blocking the path for everyone else, was a white Porsche Cayenne. That's Mom's car, I told Liam. He looked at it. Nice car. Yeah, I said, a bitter smile touching my lips. It should be. I paid for it. I looked at the license plate. It was custom, Love ISA. Love Isabella. Or maybe Love Evelyn. It didn't matter. I parked my beat-up Honda Civic around the back, near the servant's entrance, just like I knew she would want. I took a deep breath. The invoice was in my bag. The evidence was in my hand. I walked up the steps to the back door. I wasn't the daughter coming home anymore. I was the auditor arriving for a surprise inspection. And nobody in that house was ready for what I was about to find. The kitchen of Grandma Rose's estate smelled like rosemary, garlic, and old resentment. It was a smell I knew better than my own perfume. I walked in through the back door, carrying my laptop bag, and there was Mom. Evelyn Hart. She was standing by the island, arranging flowers in a crystal vase. She looked immaculate in a cream-colored linen suit that probably cost more than my first car. Her hair was a helmet of blonde perfection. She didn't look up when the door opened. She just checked her watch. You're late, she said. Hello to you too, Mom, I said, setting my bag down on a chair. Traffic was, I don't need excuses, Sophia. I need the lamb marinated, she interrupted, finally turning her cold, blue eyes on me. She scanned my outfit, jeans and a clean white t-shirt. Her lip curled. And look at you. You look like you're here to fix the sink, not attend a family reunion. Did you not get the dress code? Summer elegance. I'm here to help cook, aren't I? I said, walking to the sink to wash my hands. Hard to roast a leg of lamb in a cocktail dress. Just try not to be seen until you've changed into something acceptable, she sniffed. Your sister will be here soon. She's bringing Derek. And she's wearing that stunning piece from the Milan collection. We need everything to be perfect. Right, I said. Isabella. How is she? She's exhausted, Mom sighed, as if Isabella had been working in a coal mine. The design world is so demanding. Clients calling at all hours. She needs this weekend to relax. That's why I need you to handle the appetizers. And the main course. And the table setting. I nodded. Of course. The hierarchy was preserved. Isabella was the talent, I was the labor. For the next 3 hours, I was invisible. I chopped vegetables, I rubbed herbs into the meat, I polished the silver. Liam tried to help, but Mom shooed him away, telling him the men were watching football in the den. So it was just me and the heat of the ovens. Around 11:30, the gravel in the driveway crunched. I looked out the kitchen window. A sleek black Mercedes pulled up next to Mom's white Porsche. Isabella stepped out. She looked like she had walked off a runway. She was wearing a flowing silk dress that caught the sunlight. Her hair was extensions, luscious and long. But what caught my eye immediately was the flash on her left hand. A diamond. A massive, radiant-cut diamond that scattered light in every direction. Derek, her husband, got out of the driver's side. He looked tired. Derek was a good guy, a successful architect, but lately, he always looked like he was carrying a heavy weight. He walked around to open the door for her, but she was already out, posing for a selfie in front of the house. Showtime, I muttered to myself. I wiped my hands on a towel and walked into the foyer just as they entered. "Mommy!" Isabella squealed, rushing into Evelyn's arms. The scent of expensive perfume filled the hallway, overpowering the smell of the roast. "Oh, my beautiful girl." Mom hugged her tight, rocking her back and forth. "Look at you. You're glowing." Isabella pulled back and held out her hand. "Do you like the manicure? I just got it done. It matches the ring, don't you think?" She wiggled her fingers. The diamond flashed. "Stunning," Mom cooed. "Absolutely stunning. Derek, you have outdone yourself." Derek smiled a thin, tight smile. She picked it out. "I just wanted her to be happy." "Well, she certainly looks happy," Mom said. Then she looked over Isabella's shoulder and saw me standing in the doorway. Her smile vanished instantly. "Oh. Hi, Sophia," Isabella said, her voice dropping an octave. "You made it." "Hi, Isabella," I said. "Nice dress." "Thanks," she said, smoothing the silk. "It's vintage. You know, you have a little smudge." She pointed to her own cheek. I wiped my face. "Flour. I've been cooking." "Good," Isabella said, handing her coat to me as if I were the coat check girl. "I'm starving. Is the wine open? I've had such a stressful week." My assistant messed up the orders for the penthouse project, and I had to fire her. It was traumatic. I took the coat. "Traumatic," I repeated flatly. "You wouldn't understand," she said, turning her back on me to link arms with Mom. "Corporate life is different from whatever it is you do at the bank. Data entry. Risk analysis," I said to her back. "Same thing," she waved a hand. "Come on, Mom. I brought you that scarf you wanted." "Hermes." I watched them walk into the living room. My blood was boiling, but I forced it to simmer. "Wait," I told myself. "Just wait." The rest of the family started arriving. Uncle Bernard, the retired CPA, who always asked me about interest rates. Aunt Clara, Mom's sister, who looked at Evelyn with a mix of fear and envy. Cousin Sarah, who lived for drama, and was already recording TikToks in the hallway. By 1 p.m., 48 relatives were packed into the dining room. The table was set with Grandma Rose's finest china, which I had washed. The roast was carved by me. I took my seat at the far end of the table, next to Liam. Dad sat at the head, looking weary. He gave me a small, secret wave and slid a chocolate bar across the tablecloth toward me. It was a Snickers. My favorite. "Thanks, Dad," I mouthed. He winked. "You work too hard," he whispered. "Don't let them get to you." It broke my heart. He was a good man, but he was weak. He had let Evelyn bulldoze him for 30 years. He didn't know the half of it. Lunch was an exercise in narcissism. Evelyn held court, telling stories about Isabella's childhood genius, Isabella's beauty pageants, Isabella's thriving business. "It's just so rewarding," Evelyn said, raising her wine glass, "to see your children succeed. To see them stand on their own 2 feet. She looked pointedly at me. "Or at least, one of them." A hush fell over the table. Uncle Bernard cleared his throat uncomfortably. "Evelyn," Dad said softly. "Not today." "Why not today, Arthur?" Evelyn challenged, her voice sharp. "It's Mother's Day. Shouldn't I be honest about the return on my investment?" She stood up. She clinked her spoon against her glass. "Everyone, if I could have your attention," she announced. Her voice was practiced, theatrical. "I have prepared a little presentation. A lesson in financial responsibility, if you will." She gestured to the sideboard behind her. There was an object covered in a velvet cloth. Sophia, she said, smiling that cold predator smile. This is for you. She pulled the cloth away. There was a collective gasp. It was a framed printout. Not just a piece of paper, but a poster-sized, professionally matted and framed printout of the spreadsheet she had emailed me. The numbers were large enough for everyone to read. The cost of raising Sophia Hart. Total, $347,112.50. I wanted to make it official, Evelyn said, beaming. Since Sophia loves numbers so much, I thought she would appreciate the transparency. This is what you owe the family, dear. For 28 years of mediocrity. Isabella covered her mouth, giggling. Oh my God, Mom. You actually did it. That is savage. Cousin Sarah was filming it on her phone. Aunt Clara looked down at her plate. I felt Liam's hand grip my thigh under the table. He was shaking with anger. He was about to stand up to defend me. I placed my hand over his and pushed him gently back down. I stood up. My chair scraped loudly against the wooden floor. The room went silent. 48 pairs of eyes were on me. Some pitying, some mocking, some just hungry for the carnage. I looked at the framed bill. Then I looked at my mother. You went to a lot of trouble, Mom, I said. My voice didn't shake. It was the voice I used when I presented bad news to the board of directors. Framing it. Bolding the total. Very professional. I thought it was necessary, Evelyn said, crossing her arms. Maybe it will motivate you to work harder. To be more like your sister. Transparency, I said, nodding slowly. I like that word. You want to talk about costs. You want to talk about who owes who. I don't think you're in a position to negotiate, Isabella sneered, twirling her diamond ring. Just say you're sorry for being a leech and sit down. I reached into my bag and pulled out my laptop. Actually, I said, I prepared a presentation too. I walked over to the sideboard, right next to Mom. I swept her framed monstrosity face down onto the table with a loud clack. Hey! Evelyn shouted. That cost money. Add it to my tab, I said. I plugged my laptop into the massive smart TV mounted on the dining room wall. The screen flickered to life. Liam, catch the lights, I said. Liam stood up and flipped the dimmer switch. The room darkened. The glow of the TV screen illuminated my face. You sent me an invoice, Mom, I said to the room. And being a good risk analyst, I decided to conduct an audit. Do you know what happens when you audit a fraudulent account? I looked at Uncle Bernard. Uncle Bernie, you're a CPA. What happens? Bernard adjusted his glasses, looking intrigued. Usually. Someone goes to jail. Exactly, I said. I clicked the first file. Let's start with the year 2016, I said. The year I started college. The year you told me the trust fund Grandpa set up had evaporated due to bad investments. The screen behind me filled with a scanned document. It was a bank statement from the Sophia Hart Education Trust. Uncle Bernard, I said, can you verify the starting balance on January 1, 2016? Bernard squinted at the screen. He pulled his glasses down his nose. It says $89,400.12. A murmur rippled through the room. $89,000. That was a lot of money. Correct, I said. And Mom, what did you tell me happened to this money? Evelyn was standing very still. Her face had lost a shade of its color. The market crashed, she said, her voice tight. We lost it in the volatility. You know how stocks are. I do, I said. But this account wasn't in stocks. It was in low-yield municipal bonds. Very stable. I clicked the remote. The slide changed. This is the transaction history for August 15, 2016. 3 weeks before my tuition was due. The screen showed a single-line item in bright red. Wire transfer out, minus $89,400.12. Recipient, Evelyn Hart, personal checking. The silence in the room was heavy, suffocating. Dad turned his head slowly to look at Mom. "Evelyn," he said. "You told me that money was gone. You told me the broker lost it. It was for the family." Evelyn stammered, her hand fluttering to her pearl necklace. "We were having cash flow issues. The house repairs, that expenses. I moved it to protect it." "You moved it to protect it?" I repeated. "Let's see where it went." I clicked the next slide. This is a purchase order from August 22, 2016. 1 week after the transfer. The image was a dealership invoice. Porsche of Connecticut. Item, 2017 Porsche Cayenne GTS. White. Price, $88,500. Payment method, cashier's check. I pointed out the window, toward the driveway. "You see that white Porsche blocking the driveway? The one Mom wouldn't let me park near because my car is too ugly." I looked directly at Evelyn. "That's my college education sitting on 4 tires. I have $67,000 in student loans accruing 6% interest. I ate ramen for 4 years. I worked double shifts at the library. And you were driving my tuition to the country club." "That is a lie," Evelyn shrieked. She lunged toward the TV, but Dad stood up. "Sit down, Evelyn," he said. His voice wasn't loud, but it was hard. I had never heard him use that tone with her. "Richard, she's manipulating the data," Evelyn cried, looking around the room for support. "I needed a safe car. For the girls. For safety." "You bought a sports car with your daughter's future," Aunt Clara said from the corner. Her voice was trembling. "Evelyn, how could you?" "I was going to pay it back," Evelyn yelled. "It was a loan. A temporary loan." 9 years is a long time for a temporary loan, Mom," I said calmly. "But you know what? I could almost forgive the car. Almost. If that was all it was." I walked back to the laptop. "But then I looked closer at the invoice you sent me today. You charged me for housing and food for the last 6 years. But I haven't lived here since 2018. I brought up the next document. It was a PDF of Evelyn's tax returns, redacted of course, but the key parts were visible. "This is Mom's tax filing from 2018 through 2023, I explained. "Uncle Bernie, look at the dependents section." Bernard leaned forward, his accountant instincts taking over. "She listed you as a dependent," he muttered. "And head of household status for, wait, you were living in Boston. You were filing your own taxes." "Exactly," I said. "She claimed me as a dependent living at home to get the tax credit. That's $500 per year, plus the deduction. That's tax fraud, Mom. Federal tax fraud. You stole from the IRS using my social security number." "It was a mistake," Evelyn shouted. "My accountant made a mistake." "Uncle Bernie was your accountant until 2019, I reminded her. "Did you tell him to do that, Bernie?" "Absolutely not," Bernard said, his face darkening. "I told you specifically, Evelyn, once she moves out, you cannot claim her. You fired me because I wouldn't do it. So you found a new accountant who would lie for you," I said. "That's roughly $20,000 in fraudulent benefits you claimed. Add that to the $89,000 car. We're up to over $100,000 you stole from me or the government." Isabella laughed. It was a nervous, brittle sound. Okay, so Mom is bad with paperwork. Who cares? This is boring. Can we eat dessert now? She swirled her wine, looking bored. You're just trying to distract everyone from the fact that you're a failure, Sophia. So Mom bought a car. She deserves it. She raised us. You're just jealous because I don't need to steal from Mom. I make my own money. I turned my gaze to Isabella. The golden child. The princess. You make your own money? I asked. Yes, she hissed. I have clients. I have taste. And you have a very nice engagement ring, I said. Derek, how much was that ring? If you don't mind me asking. Derek looked uncomfortable. It was substantial. I gave Isabella a budget. $20,000. I transferred the cash to her account, so she could negotiate a deal with a private jeweler she knows. Right, I said. $20,000 cash. I clicked the next slide. The screen changed to a credit card statement. The logo was American Express Platinum. Account holder, Sophia Hart. Billing address P.O. Box 442, Isabella's business address. I ran a credit check on myself on Tuesday, I said. Imagine my surprise when I found 3 credit cards I never opened. Maxed out. Total debt, $46,800. I zoomed in on the transactions. May 14th, Tiffany & Company $18,500. I looked at Derek. Derek, did she pay a private jeweler cash? Or does this look like a credit card transaction? Derek stood up slowly. He looked at the screen. Then he looked at Isabella's hand. Isabella, he said. It's fake. Isabella shouted, tucking her hand under the table. She photoshopped it. That's not my card. It's my name on the card, I said. But look at the signature on the receipt. I pulled up the digital receipt image. The signature read Sophia Hart, but the S was a giant, looping swirl. The H had a heart over it. I don't sign my name with hearts, I said. You do, Isabella. And here, I continued, scrolling down. The business trip to Miami last month. $3,200 at the Fontainebleau Hotel. Charged to Sophia Hart. The vintage silk dress you're wearing right now. I pointed to the screen. The real online purchase last week. $1,400. Charged to Sophia Hart. Isabella, Derek said, his voice cracking. I gave you money for the hotel. I gave you money for the dress. Where is that money? Isabella's eyes were darting around the room like a trapped animal. I invested it. Crypto. It's tied up. I needed liquidity. Mom said it was okay. She clamped her hand over her mouth. I smiled. Mom said it was okay. I turned back to Evelyn. So you not only stole my college fund, you authorized Isabella to steal my identity. To ruin my credit score so she could play dress up. We needed to maintain appearances. Evelyn burst out, tears streaming down her face, angry tears, not sad ones. You don't understand. The pressure. People expect things from us. Isabella is the face of this family. She couldn't be seen wearing rags. And you have that boring job, you have good credit. I thought you wouldn't mind helping your sister. Helping? I shouted. It was the first time I raised my voice. You committed a felony. Identity theft is a felony. You made me a debtor to fund her delusions. I am not delusional. Isabella screamed, standing up and knocking her chair over. I am a brand. I am an influencer. You are a fraud, I said coldly. And you're wearing stolen property. Derek walked over to Isabella. He didn't look angry. He looked broken. Give me the ring, he said. No. Isabella clutched her hand to her chest. It's mine. You didn't buy it. I didn't buy it. Sophia paid for it, Derek said. Give it to me, Mom. Isabella wailed. Do something. Evelyn stepped forward, her face twisted with a mixture of fear and rage. She knew she was losing the room. She knew Uncle Bernie was probably mentally drafting a report to the authorities. She knew Dad was looking at her like a stranger. So she did the only thing she knew how to do. She went nuclear. You think you're so smart, Sophia, Evelyn hissed. You think you can come here and humiliate us with your little spreadsheets. You want to talk about truth. Let's talk about the real truth. Evelyn, don't, Dad warned. No. Evelyn shouted. She wants to ruin everything. Fine. Let's ruin it. She looked at me with pure hatred. You want to know why I spent your college fund? You want to know why Isabella is the golden child and you are the burden? She stepped closer to me. Because every time I look at you, I don't see a daughter. I see a mistake. I see a reminder of the worst year of my life. The room was deathly silent. Go ahead, I said softly. Say it. Say what you texted Isabella 3 years ago. Evelyn froze. You didn't think I knew about that? I asked. I fixed Isabella's iPad once. Her iMessage was synced. I saw the text, Mom. I turned back to the laptop. I have one last slide. The projector hummed, the only sound in a room paralyzed by tension. Don't you dare, Evelyn whispered. The color had drained from her face completely, leaving her looking like a wax figure melting under the heat of her own lies. If you show that, there is no going back. We passed the point of no return when you sent me a bill for my childhood, I said. And we definitely passed it when you helped Isabella open credit cards in my name. I hit the spacebar. The final image appeared on the 65-inch screen. It was a screenshot of an iMessage conversation. Sender, MOM recipient, Isabella date, July 14, 2023. The font was large. Legible. Undeniable. MOM, you need to be careful with the spending, but don't worry about Sophia finding out. She's too busy with her little numbers. Just keep her away from Dad. If Richard ever looks too closely at her, he might start asking questions. She looks more like David every day. If your father finds out she isn't his, he'll divorce me, and we lose the estate. I need you to be the perfect one. You are the only thing holding this marriage together. Isabella, I know, Mom. I won't say anything. But I need $5,000 for the credit card bill, or the bank calls the house. The gasp that went through the room this time wasn't shock. It was horror. I looked at Isabella. That's right. You knew. You knew I wasn't Dad's biological daughter, and instead of telling me, or telling him, you used it as leverage. You blackmailed Mom. You got your purse money by threatening to blow up the family. Isabella sank back into her chair, covering her face with her hands. She couldn't look at Derek. She couldn't look at anyone. I turned to Dad. Arthur Hart was standing like a statue. He was staring at the screen, reading the words over and over again. She looks more like David every day. David? Dad whispered. His voice was a dry rattle. David. Miller. Evelyn closed her eyes. It was before we were serious, Evelyn pleaded, stepping toward him, her hands reaching out but stopping short of touching him. Richard, please. It was a lapse in judgment. I was young. I didn't know. I wasn't sure. Sophia is 28, Dad said. We were married for 2 years when she was born. David was our neighbor. He was my friend. It was one time. Evelyn screamed. And then I got pregnant and I was scared. I didn't want to lose you. So I let you believe she was yours. I did it for us. To keep our family together. No, Dad said. He looked at me. His eyes were red, filled with a pain so deep it felt like a physical blow to witness. You didn't do it for us. You did it for you. And you treated her. He pointed at me, his hand shaking. You treated her like garbage because you felt guilty. You punished her for your sin. I fed her. Evelyn argued hysterically. I clothed her. I kept her here. You billed her. Dad roared. It was a sound I had never heard from him. A lion waking up after a long slumber. He grabbed the framed invoice off the table where I had flipped it. He smashed it against the edge of the table. Glass shattered everywhere. You sent her a bill for $347,000 for the privilege of being abused by you. He threw the broken frame onto the floor. And you, Dad turned to Isabella. My golden child. You knew. For 3 years. Isabella looked up, mascara running down her cheeks. Daddy, Don't call me that, he snapped. You stole from your sister. You let your mother steal from her. And you blackmailed your mother to fund your fake life. You are. I don't even know who you are. Derek stepped forward. He took the ring off Isabella's finger. She didn't fight him this time. He placed the ring on the table next to me. Sophia, Derek said, his voice void of emotion. Sell this. Pay off the credit cards. Keep the rest. Derek, no. Isabella shrieked, grabbing his arm. You can't leave me. We're a power couple. I'm filing for annulment tomorrow, Derek said, shaking her off. Fraud is grounds for annulment. Don't contact me. He walked out the front door without looking back. Isabella collapsed onto the floor, sobbing into her silk dress, the dress bought with my credit. Evelyn was hyperventilating. She looked at Uncle Bernard. Bernie, you have to help me. The tax thing, we can fix it, right? Uncle Bernard stood up. He wiped his mouth with his napkin. Evelyn, I'm legally obligated to report this. You implicated me in front of 40 witnesses. I'm not losing my license for you. You're on your own. The exodus began. It was silent at first, then hurried. Aunt Clara stood up and grabbed her purse. She walked over to Evelyn. I always wondered, Clara said quietly. I always wondered why you were so hard on Sophia. Why you looked at her with such disdain. I thought you were just a hard mother. But you're a monster. Clara, wait. Evelyn begged. Don't call me, Clara said. She turned to me. She hugged me tight. I am so sorry, Sophia. We failed you. We all failed you. Thank you, Aunt Clara, I whispered. One by one, the relatives filed out. They stepped over the shattered glass. They skirted around the sobbing Isabella. They avoided eye contact with Evelyn. Within 10 minutes, the room was empty. Just me, Liam, Dad, Evelyn, and Isabella. Dad walked over to the wall where the family portrait hung. The one on my desk at work. He took it down. He looked at it for a long moment, then he laid it face down on the sideboard. Richard, Evelyn whispered. Please. We have 30 years. 30 years of a lie, Dad said. I'm leaving, Evelyn. I'm going to stay at the club tonight. Tomorrow, I'll send for my things. You can't leave me. Evelyn shrieked, her composure finally shattering completely. I have no money. The trust is gone. The estate. Mother will cut me off. You should have thought of that before you bought the Porsche, Dad said. He turned to me. He looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Fear. Disgust. My heart hammered. Was he going to reject me too? Now that he knew I wasn't his blood. Dad? I said, my voice small. He walked over to me. He stopped a foot away. He looked at my face, searching for the features of the man he used to call a friend. Then, he pulled me into a hug so tight I couldn't breathe. You are my daughter, he sobbed into my hair. His shoulders were shaking. I don't care about biology. I don't care about David. I changed your diapers. I taught you to drive. I sat up with you when you were sick. You are mine. I broke down. For the first time all day, the tears came. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. No, he said, pulling back and cupping my face. You saved me. You told the truth. You were the bravest one in this room. He kissed my forehead. I need to get out of here. I'll call you tonight. He walked out. We heard his car start, not the Mercedes or a fancy sports car, but his old Ford truck. He drove away. I looked at Evelyn and Isabella. The queen and the princess sitting in the ruins of their kingdom. Evelyn looked up at me. Her eyes were full of venom. Are you happy? She spat. You destroyed this family. No, Mom, I said, packing up my laptop. I just audited it. The room wasn't entirely empty. I had forgotten one person. Grandma Rose. She was sitting in her wheelchair at the head of the table, near where Dad had been. She hadn't said a word during my entire presentation. She hadn't moved when Dad smashed the frame. She had just watched, her dark eyes sharp as a hawk's. Evelyn seemed to remember her too. She scrambled up from her chair, wiping her face, trying to compose herself. Mother, Evelyn said, her voice shaking. Mother, you know how Richard gets. He's emotional. He'll be back. We just need to spin this. We can say Sophia is having a mental breakdown. We can say the documents were forged. Isabella perked up from the floor. Yes. Yes, Grandma. Sophia is crazy. She's always been jealous of me. Grandma Rose slowly turned her wheelchair to face them. She tapped her cane on the floor. Tap. 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 Sophia, Grandma Rose said. Her voice was raspy but clear. Come here, child. I walked over to her. I wasn't sure what to expect. Grandma Rose was old-fashioned. She cared about reputation. Maybe she would hate me for airing the dirty laundry. Give me your hand, she said. I held out my hand. She gripped it with surprising strength. Her skin was paper-thin, but her grip was iron. You have your grandfather's mind, she said, looking at me. Sharp. Unforgiving of lies. I like that. She turned to Evelyn. Evelyn, Grandma said. You are my daughter-in-law. I have tolerated your vanity because you made Richard happy. But today, I learned you have made him a cuckold and a fool for 28 years. Mother, please, Evelyn wept. And, Grandma continued, her voice rising, you stole from this family. The education trust was not yours to touch. That money was set aside by my late husband for his grandchildren. I was going to pay it back. With what? Grandma snapped. You have never worked a day in your life. And now, you have implicated the family name in tax fraud and identity theft. Grandma Rose reached into her purse and pulled out a cell phone. An old flip phone. I called Mr. Sterling, the family attorney, while Sophia was showing the credit card slides, Grandma said calmly. He is on his way over. Why? Isabella asked, trembling. To sue Sophia. Grandma laughed. It was a dry, harsh sound. No, you stupid girl. To rewrite my will. Evelyn grabbed the edge of the table. What? I am removing you, Evelyn, Grandma said. You get nothing. The house, the land, the investments. Nothing. Richard will inherit his share. And Sophia will inherit the rest. But what about me? Isabella asked. I'm Isabella. You are a thief, Grandma said. And an accessory to extortion. You will receive nothing until you pay back every cent you stole from your sister. Mr. Sterling will be setting up a payment plan. A real one. Not a framed joke. Get out of my house, Grandma said. Where are we supposed to go? Evelyn cried. I believe you have a Porsche, Grandma said. It has heated seats. You should be comfortable. The sun was setting as Liam and I walked to my car. The air was cooling down, but I felt warm. We passed the white Porsche. Evelyn was sitting in the driver's seat, talking frantically into her phone, probably calling every friend she had, trying to find a place to stay. Isabella was in the passenger seat, staring blankly out the window, twisting the empty finger where her diamond used to be. They didn't look at me. They couldn't. We got into my Honda. It smelled like old coffee and faint gasoline, and it was the best smell in the world. You okay? Liam asked, buckling his seatbelt. I looked back at the house. The grand colonial estate that had always felt like a museum, where I wasn't allowed to touch the exhibits. I paused, testing the feeling in my chest. I think I'm free. We drove out of the gates. I didn't look back. The next few weeks were a blur of legalities, but good ones. Derek was true to his word. He filed for an annulment based on fraud. He sold the ring, he actually got $14,000 for it, and he sent me a check for the full amount. He also paid off the remaining balance on the credit cards Isabella had opened. He sent a note with the check. I'm sorry I didn't see it. I hope this helps you start over. I used that money to pay off a chunk of my student loans. It wasn't everything, but it felt like justice. Uncle Bernard, true to his rigid moral code, and fear of losing his CPA license, reported Evelyn to the IRS. She was audited. It turns out, claiming a non-resident dependent was the least of her problems. She owes the government over $50,000 in back taxes and penalties. She had to sell the Porsche to pay the initial fine. I heard through Aunt Clara that Evelyn and Isabella are living in a 2-bedroom apartment in New Haven. Isabella got a job as a receptionist at a dental office. She had to delete her Instagram because the comments were, well, let's just say the internet doesn't like scammers. Dad is doing okay. He moved into a condo near the golf course. We have dinner every Tuesday. Last week, we were sitting at a diner, eating burgers. He looked younger. The weight of the lie was gone. I found David Miller, Dad said suddenly, dipping a fry in ketchup. I froze. You did? Yeah. He lives in Ohio now. He's a history teacher. Dad looked at me. Do you want his number? I thought about it. I thought about the man who contributed my DNA, the man whose existence was the reason my mother hated me. Then I looked at the man sitting across from me. The man who taught me how to ride a bike. The man who slipped me Snickers bars when Mom wasn't looking. The man who walked out on his wife of 30 years the moment he realized she had hurt me. No, I said. I have a dad. Dad smiled. It was a real smile. Okay. But I added, I wouldn't mind another side of fries. You got it, kiddo. As for me, I'm still a risk analyst. I still love spreadsheets. But I have a new project now. Grandma Rose asked me to help manage the estate finances. She says she needs someone who knows how to spot a thief. My mother sent me a bill for $347,000 to tell me I was a failure. In the end, she paid for it with her marriage, her home, and her reputation. I'd say the accounts are balanced. The morning after the reunion, the sun rose over Grandma Rose's estate as if nothing had happened. The birds were singing, the dew was sparkling on the manicured lawn, and the ivy climbed the brick walls with the same silent persistence it had for a century. But inside the house, the air felt different. It was lighter. The heavy, suffocating fog of secrets that had choked the hallways for 28 years had finally lifted, blown away by the storm we had unleashed in the dining room. I didn't sleep much that night. I stayed in the guest room, the one Mom usually forbade me from using because it was reserved for important guests. I woke up early, dressed in the same jeans and t-shirt, and went down to the kitchen. Grandma Rose was already there. She sat at the head of the small breakfast table, sipping black coffee. Next to her was a stack of legal documents thick enough to stop a bullet. Across from her sat Mr. Sterling, the family attorney, looking weary but alert. "Good morning, Sophia," Grandma said. She didn't smile, but her eyes weren't hard. They were assessing. "Coffee is in the pot. Grab a cup. We have business." I poured myself a mug and sat down. My hands were steady, but my heart was doing a slow, heavy thud in my chest. Yesterday was the demolition. Today, I realized, was the cleanup. "Mr. Sterling has been up all night drafting the necessary changes," Grandma said, tapping the stack of papers. "We have restructured the estate." Mr. Sterling cleared his throat. He was a man of few words, which made the ones he did speak carry weight. "Sophia, as of 4 a.m. this morning, your grandmother has revoked the living trust that previously named Evelyn Hart as the primary beneficiary. She has also dissolved the Hart Family Foundation, which your mother and sister were using as a personal piggy bank. We found the records," Grandma added, her voice crisp. "Isabella's consulting fees paid by the foundation. Evelyn's travel expenses." It was methodical looting. "What happens to them?" I asked. I didn't feel the surge of triumph I expected. I just felt a grim satisfaction, like balancing a particularly difficult ledger. "Evelyn has been granted a small, fixed stipend," Mr. Sterling explained. "It is enough to rent a modest apartment and buy groceries. It is not enough for Chanel. It is certainly not enough for a Porsche. And it comes with a condition: no contact with the press, and no contact with you or your father unless initiated by you." "And Isabella?" I asked. Grandma Rose leaned forward. "Isabella is young. She has hands. She has a brain, though she rarely uses it. I am not giving her a stipend. I am giving her a choice." Grandma slid a document across the table toward me. It was a promissory note. "Mr. Sterling calculated the total amount of debt she accrued in your name, plus the interest, plus the legal fees required to clean up your credit report. It comes to roughly $58,000. She has to pay it back," Grandma said. "Every cent directly to you. If she misses a payment, or if she tries to default, I have instructed Mr. Sterling to hand over the file on her identity theft to the district attorney. She pays you, or she goes to prison." I stared at the paper. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about accountability. For the first time in her life, Isabella wouldn't be bailed out. She would be held down by the weight of her own actions. "Thank you, Grandma," I said quietly. "Don't thank me," she said sharply. "I let this happen under my roof. I was too old, too tired, or maybe just too blind to see what Evelyn was doing to you. I thought she was just strict. I didn't know she was cruel." She reached out and covered my hand with hers. Her skin was dry and papery. "You remind me of my husband. He believed that numbers were the only thing in the world that didn't lie. You proved that yesterday." Just then, we heard the sound of an engine outside. It wasn't a normal engine. It was the throaty purr of the Porsche Cayenne. "Ah," Grandma said. That would be Evelyn. She's here to return the property. I stiffened. I don't want to see her. You don't have to talk to her, Grandma said. But you should see this. You need to see the balance sheet zeroed out. We walked out to the front driveway. Mr. Sterling stood by the door, holding a clipboard. Evelyn got out of the car. She looked like she had aged 10 years overnight. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and she was wearing no makeup. Her eyes were puffy and red. She wore a tracksuit, not the linen suit from yesterday. She saw me standing on the porch next to Grandma, and her face twisted. It wasn't anger anymore, it was a desperate, pleading misery. Mother, Evelyn called out, her voice cracking. Please. Don't make me do this. It's my car. It's the only thing I have left. It is not your car, Grandma Rose said, her voice projecting across the lawn. It was bought with stolen funds. It belongs to the estate. And the estate is liquidating it to pay back the taxes you evaded. I have nowhere to go. Evelyn sobbed, leaning against the white hood of the SUV. Richard won't answer my calls. Isabella is hysterical. We stayed in a motel last night. A motel, Mother? Then you are learning the value of $1, Grandma said. Leave the keys. Get your personal items out. Mr. Sterling will call a taxi for you. Evelyn looked at me. Sophia, she begged. Help me. Talk to her. I'm your mother. I gave you life. I looked at the woman who had itemized my existence. I looked at the car that represented my stolen education. You gave me life, I said slowly. But then you sent me a bill for it. The transaction is closed, Mom. Evelyn wailed, a low, guttural sound of defeat. She threw the keys onto the gravel. She grabbed a Louis Vuitton duffel bag from the back seat, probably the last designer item she still owned, and stood by the gate, waiting for the taxi. We watched in silence until the yellow cab pulled up. She got in, and she was gone. Later that afternoon, I drove over to the golf course condo where Dad was staying. It was a rental, furnished with generic beige furniture, nothing like the curated antiques of our family home. But when Dad opened the door, he looked relaxed. He was wearing a t-shirt and sweatpants. He held a beer in one hand and a spatula in the other. Hey, kiddo, he smiled. Come in. I'm making grilled cheese. It's the only thing I know how to cook without your mother shouting instructions. I walked in and hugged him. He smelled like Old Spice and freedom. I saw Grandma, I told him. And Mom. I heard, Dad said. He flipped a sandwich in the pan. Sterling called me. He told me about the will. Are you okay with it? I asked. Grandma cutting Mom out completely. Dad sighed. He turned off the stove and leaned against the counter. Sophia, for 28 years, I thought I was the provider. I thought I was taking care of my family. Turns out, I was just funding a lie. I don't want her money. I don't want the estate. I have my pension, I have my dignity back, and I have my daughter. He looked at me seriously. And about that, the DNA thing. I tensed up. We don't have to talk about it. We do, he said. He walked over to a small side table and picked up a piece of paper. It was the printout of the text message I had shown yesterday. The one where Mom admitted I wasn't his. He held it up. Then, he took a lighter from his pocket, the one he used for the grill, and lit the corner of the paper. We watched it burn. The flame curled the edges, turning the hateful words into black ash. He dropped it into the sink and ran the water until it was nothing but gray sludge swirling down the drain. Ashes, Dad said. That's all it is. History. You're a heart, Sophia. You have my stubbornness. You have my laugh. And unfortunately for you, you have my hairline. I laughed, wiping a tear from my cheek. Thanks, Dad. I talked to Liam, by the way, Dad said, grinning mischievously. He called me this morning. Asked for my permission. My eyes widened. Permission for what? To marry you, of course. He's old-fashioned like that. I told him he doesn't need my permission, he needs yours. But he has my blessing. He's a good man, Sophia. He stood up for you yesterday. He was ready to fight the whole room. I felt a warmth spread through my chest that had nothing to do with the grilled cheese. He's the best, I whispered. Good, Dad said, handing me a plate. Now eat. You look too skinny. We have a wedding to plan, and I'm not letting your mother near the guest list. The healing didn't happen overnight. There were still lawyers and phone calls, and the messy business of untangling 30 years of financial abuse. I had to testify against Isabella regarding the credit card fraud to get the charges removed from my record. I had to sit across from her in a deposition room, while she glared at me, stripped of her fake lashes and designer clothes, looking small and mean. But every time I felt a pang of guilt, every time I wondered if I had been too harsh, I opened that folder on my laptop. I looked at the invoice. $347,000. And I remembered, they didn't just steal my money. They tried to steal my reality. They tried to convince me that I was worthless so they could profit from my worth. Auditing them wasn't revenge. It was a correction. And the books were finally balancing out. 6 months later, the leaves in Boston had turned to gold and crimson. The air was crisp, smelling of wood smoke and apples. It was a perfect day for a wedding. We didn't rent a ballroom. We didn't hire a string quartet, or import flowers from Holland. Liam and I got married in the backyard of the small house we had just bought, with a mortgage we secured thanks to my newly restored credit score of 780. The yard was decorated with string lights and pumpkins. The tables were covered in white linens that Aunt Clara had helped me iron. The food was catered by a local barbecue truck, Dad's idea, and a brilliant one. I stood in the bedroom, looking in the mirror. My dress wasn't Vera Wang. It wasn't from a runway in Milan. I had bought it off the rack at a bridal consignment shop for $800. It was simple, lace, and elegant. And I felt more beautiful in it than Isabella had ever looked in her $10,000 silk gown. Knock knock, a voice came from the door. It was Dad. He was wearing a dark blue suit, his tie perfectly knotted. He looked handsome, healthy, and happy. You look. He stopped, his voice catching in his throat. He blinked rapidly. You look like $1 million, kiddo. Better than $1 million, I smiled. I look debt-free. He laughed, offering me his arm. Ready? Ready. We walked out into the backyard. The wedding march was played on an acoustic guitar by one of Liam's friends. There were only 40 people there. Grandma Rose was in the front row, looking regal in a navy hat. Aunt Clara was dabbing her eyes with a tissue. Uncle Bernard was checking his watch, probably timing the ceremony for efficiency, but he was smiling. And there was Liam. Standing under the maple tree, looking at me like I was the only person in the world. When we got to the vows, Liam took my hand. His voice was steady and warm. Sophia, I promise to be your partner. In the good times and the bad. I promise to always tell you the truth. I promise that our life will be built on honesty, not appearances. And I promise that you will never, ever have to earn my love. It's yours. For free. Forever. I choked back a sob. You will never have to earn my love. That was the antithesis of my entire childhood. Then came the rings. Liam didn't pull out a giant rock. He slid a simple gold band onto my finger. In the center was a small sapphire, my birthstone. It's not big, he whispered as he put it on. It's real, I whispered back. That's all that matters. Unlike Isabella's cubic zirconia monstrosity funded by fraud, this ring was paid for with Liam's teacher salary. It was solid. It was ours. It didn't sparkle with the brilliance of a stolen diamond, but it glowed with something warmer, integrity. The reception was a blur of laughter and dancing. Dad gave a toast that made everyone cry, talking about how true family isn't defined by DNA, but by who stands beside you when the storm hits. Around 9 p.m., I stepped away from the dance floor to get a glass of water. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I usually ignore it during events, but old habits die hard. It was a text from an unknown number. Sophia, it's Isabella. I saw the pictures on Cousin Sarah's Facebook. You look pretty. Look, I know you hate me, but I'm really struggling. The payment to you is due next week, and I'm short $200. Can we just skip this month? Mom is sick and she needs medicine. Please. We're sisters. I stared at the screen. The old Sophia might have felt a twinge of guilt. The old Sophia might have thought, it's just $200. The old Sophia, conditioned to be the fixer, the shock absorber, the one who sets herself on fire to keep them warm, might have typed okay. But the auditor was in charge now. I thought about the Porsche. I thought about the fake business trip to Miami. I thought about the text message where she conspired to hide my parentage to protect her inheritance. I typed back, the payment is due on the 1st. If it is not received, Mr. Sterling will contact the district attorney. Do not text me again. Then, I blocked the number. I put the phone down on the table. It felt heavy, like a brick. But leaving it there felt like dropping a burden I had carried for too long. Everything okay? I turned around. Dad was standing there, holding 2 glasses of champagne. Yeah, I said, taking a glass. Just closing out an old account. Dad clinked his glass against mine. To new beginnings. To new beginnings, I echoed. I looked out at the party. I saw Grandma Rose laughing at something Liam said. I saw my friends dancing. I saw a life that was messy, and imperfect, and small compared to the grandeur of the Hart estate. But it was mine. I owned every inch of it. There were no hidden debts, no emotional invoices, no conditions attached. My mother tried to put a price tag on me. She calculated the cost of my braces, my food, my shelter. She thought that by showing me the cost, she could shame me into submission. She forgot one basic rule of economics: value is determined by scarcity. Honesty is scarce. Unconditional love is scarce. Courage is scarce. Mom and Isabella had chased the things that were common: money, status, appearances. They ended up with nothing. I had chased the truth. And I ended up with everything. I looked down at my sapphire ring. It caught the light of the string bulbs above. It wasn't the biggest gem in the room, but it was unbreakable. My name is Sophia Hart. My bill is paid in full. And for the first time in my life, I am finally in the black. Thank you for walking this road with me. It wasn't an easy story to tell, but I shared it because I know I'm not the only one. Too many of us are holding on to invoices, from our families, emotional debts we think we owe them just for existing. If you take one thing from my journey, let it be this: you do not owe your parents for your childhood. Providing food, shelter, and care is the bare minimum requirement of bringing a life into this world. It is a gift, not a loan. Toxic family members will often use money, or sacrifices, as a weapon to control you, to silence you, or to keep you in line. They want you to believe that your worth is transactional. It is not. Setting boundaries, financial, emotional, or physical, is not an act of betrayal. It is an act of survival. You have the right to audit the relationships in your life. You have the right to cut off the ones that are bankrupting your soul. And you have the right to build a family, whether by blood or by bond, that values you for who you are, not what you can pay them. I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt like you had to earn your place in your family? Or have you had to make the hard choice to walk away to save yourself? Type good in the comments if you believe that self-worth cannot be bought or sold. Your interaction helps this story reach others who might need to hear that they, too, can be free. Thank you for listening.